Hello, my name is Joshua Roberts. This is my presentation on Mandinka Ajami letter writing. This is done for a class on literacy and Islam in Africa taught by Falun Gong, Boston University. This is December 2025. For a little background on the ethnic group, Mandinka in Mandinka, or often by Mandingo, depending on the source and the source age, is a large ethnic group comprising about 11 million people. It is mainly spoken around the region of the Gambia, the Casamance region of Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau. It is Mande and is often confusable with other groups like Maninka, but it is not the same group. And yes, it is one of the largest ethnic groups in the region. Ajami is a very broad set of writing systems that is an employment of the Arabic abjad to write languages other than Arabic. This is not only employed in Africa, but is employed in the Old Ottoman Empire, in Persian, and even in Africa. It's used in Eastern Africa like Swahili, or Western Africa with very, very many languages. Qur'anic schooling is a system of schooling that is very common in Islamic society, but commonly for this analysis is common in West Africa. It begins at age 7. It is often relegated to men, and they begin by teaching the alphabets. Now, the alphabets for the Arabic abjad, even if one were to quit school at that point, these Quranic schoolings give a very important framework for literacy that can then be expanded upon. And though the Arabic abjad is not often well suited for Mandinka and for other related languages, often due to phonetic and phonemic differences, they won't have like the many of the guttural sounds that Arabic has, and they'll have a much broader system of, say, nasals, of pre-nasalized consonants, that and the like. These Quranic schools give a very important baseline for that kind of literacy. So the letters comprise 18 letters across 4 different files in the NEH Ajami library. The letters were all written in Mandinka Ajami with idiosyncratic features. Of course, as this is a system that was never fully standardized, these features never became standardized. Most salient of these is the velar nasal nga, which has been written no fewer than 8 different ways across many different documents. I chose letters to see Ajami's use in the mundane. Ajami is very famous for its use in the technical, for use in divination, in poetry, in Islamic theology, in academia, and it's often neglected that Ajami is also an important resource as literacy was originally useful. It is important for record collecting, it is important for tax collecting, it is important for letter writing. And letter writing, I believe, with no disrespect to the other disciplines, is the most complex, with letters having to convey emotions to a level that is very fine-grained. Ajami, of course, as it is a rendering of a spoken language of Mandinka, must be able to handle all these complexities of emotion and to go over them well. The doxologies are very complicated across these documents, and they're very varied. 4 of them begin with Hasbanillah, or something similar. My Arabic is not perfect, which means Allah is sufficient for us. And equally in commonality, there is the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that says, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Of course, these 2 are the most common. They are very common within Arabic and within Muslim communities. And the original, they're often presented in the original Arabic. So these are not renderings. When these doxologies appear, they are not in Mandinka, but they are in the original Arabic. This is because to the religion of Islam and to the Prophet Muhammad, these doxologies are sacred in the language that they are spoken. Now, of course, polyglossic ideology has made steps. In the region, people have made steps towards using other languages for worship, for theology, even for, like, Quranic tafsirs. But as it stands, these doxologies are still sacred enough that they may appear on the letters. Of course, there's also Alhamdulillah, which is all praise and thanks to God, are due to God, sorry. and Assalamu alaikum, which is a more straightforward greeting of peace be upon you. And the most interesting to me are the 6 letters that contain no outright doxology. That Ajami is often treated as a system that is for formal use, but as it is used by the common people, it may not even need to be used by Muslims or by people who are very devout Muslims. And the absence of these doxologies can show the kind of sentiments that this can echo. What I find most interesting, of course, is the breadth of content that the letters span. The letters span a very, very wide range of uses and usefulness, including complaints, instructions for items. These letters would often accompany items that were sent a very long way, items such as money and materials to ensure that the items made it to the right place. These instructions could be for a person. It could be in the similar way as like a mail address, where it could be ensuring that the items get to the right people at the right time. They could also be instructions for what to do with the items. I know one of them included instructions on divination and what items to offer as sacrifice. These letters, of course, also have very perfunctory needs that could not have been done without a letter, without direct contact with one another. These are things like marriage inquiries and friendship. People would write each other just to uphold their friendship, to say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still your friend. And of course, as these letters were written by humans can't always be happy and perfectly fine with everything that happens. There are confrontations as well. People who write one another to complain about behaviors, to complain about people that are third party to the recipient and writer. And they also have invitations. These invitations, one of them was specifically chosen in Ajami to share an Islamic celebration that mentioned that the date of March 10th was the white man's month. Now, was this document used in Ajami to obscure this intent from the white people who may see this invitation? I'm not sure, but the derision towards the white people in the document makes me believe that the content was purposefully obfuscated and obscured from the white man so that they could talk about these things in peace. Now, of course, with these letters, there exists also prose and poetry, reaffirming once more that Ajami is not simply relegated to the life of the simple, but has very, very complex dimensions. The letter I want to look the most closely at is letter number 5. This one is very cordial when you first look at it, but though it is polite in tone, it is not polite in message, not necessarily. It is complaining about some bad behavior that the recipient has done in a manner kind of scolding. This, I feel, is a very important document to show the breadth of use of Ajami, because people have complaints, and Ajami must, as a writing system, in order to be on the level of other contemporary literacies, show that it can handle a very wide breadth of emotions, and that includes the negative ones. The inclusion here of those negative emotions shows that the breadth of Ajami is maintained. All that I am trying to say with this entire presentation is that Ajami, while it does have a very rich poetry system, divination system, very rich theology, also has use as literacy for normal people, for people who go about their lives, people who put their pants on one leg at a time, for people who need to inquire about marriage, for people who need to purchase a book in other places. Ajami has often been stereotyped as being a tradition for the elite only, for the very educated, and that is simply not the full extent of its usage. You can take a look at the writings, the handwriting here. While the writing is very cordial, the handwriting, of course, is not done with a ink pen. This is not a Qur'anic scholar who's writing this document, and yet the Ajami maintains. For this very rich tradition, it has often been an injustice that these more mundane parts that would be harder to replicate elsewhere are often overlooked. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful winter.